Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, I'm Bob from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, as a family-owned company, our goal has been simple: to give our neighbors of the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick out the perfect appliances. We'll take care of everything throughout the sale, delivery, and installation process. And we even have our own in-house service department. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or MegaNet.
Welcome, everyone. Calling to Select Board meeting to order, and if everyone would join me with the Pledge of Allegiance to start off. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, for recognition, I'd certainly like to recognize the work of the Falmouth DPW, clearing all the roads and staying up all night, I imagine. And also Eversource, they did pretty well at getting the power back on during the storm, considering the amount of snow that we had. It must have been a lot of work for them to get it back up. So thanks for that. Does anybody else have anything they want to recognize?
Not to mention wind.
Yeah.
So they did a remarkable job.
I think that when they advised us 2 or 3 years ago about their new modern computerized switching center where they're able to backfeed, I think that's been so helpful. So good for them making some investments in the infrastructure.
I also think probably the storm in October, dealt with whatever was vulnerable. And so those vulnerabilities are probably strengthened because they had to replace all of those.
Probably.
So,
And we had a little practice run the day before with the temporary outage.
Right, so silver lining.
All right. Thanks to all for the good work. And then we're now ready for announcements. Is there any announcements from board members?
You've got a proclamation.
We have the proclamation. Eagle
Okay.
Scout.
Oh,
Read
yeah.
it, or-
No, you-
Oh, excuse me, I missed that.
I know the family, so.
Yeah,
Would
either
you
way.
like to do that, Mr.?
I'll be happy to, be a pleasure.
just
Whereas
turn this
Matthew
down.
J. Briggs of Boy Scout Troop 40 has successfully completed the qualifications for the rank of Eagle Scout, a rigorous and demanding process that teaches patience, perseverance, and teamwork, and requires strong goal setting. And whereas Matthew J. Briggs met these challenges with aplomb and shall be recognized as an outstanding representative of his family, his troop, and his community. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America, long acknowledged for building fine citizens, calls for a special court of honor to award its highest symbol of achievement to those who complete this rank. And whereas Matthew J. Briggs is now an Eagle Scout with all its rank and privilege, now therefore we, Douglas C. Brown, Nancy R. Taylor, Samuel H. Patterson, Megan English Braga, Angela Scott Price, as Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, do hereby declare and proclaim Matthew J. Briggs as an Eagle Scout. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed on this 31st day of January 2022. Congratulations.
I know that Ms. Briggs has included a statement, but Matthew, would you like to read the statement, or would you like me to read it for you? Usually we have the...
Or just to describe the Eagle Project, that's usually what we ask them to do, if you don't mind.
And it is described in this letter, and it's a
Yeah,
fabulous project, so I'd love to hear from you about it.
So back in, was that March 2020, we went and took the old walled fender property, restored the trail that went around the sand pit so that it would stop eroding. Basically, all day, we had about 30 kids and families. They came out, we cleared the brush, broke it all up, cleared the path, reshaped it, and yeah, it was like a mile long off of Thomas Landers. It was a good project.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
pretty
doing
impressive,
that.
assembling 30
It's
people and
amazing.
their families. It's good job.
And we benefit.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank you.
I might mention, as she's leaving, Lynn has been the treasurer and secretary of Troop 40 for, how many, 10?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Tiger at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Grafton, thanks for all of your help.
Now we could welcome announcements. And I'm sorry I did the recognition before Mr. Briggs.
I have an announcement, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Tomorrow is the start of Black History Month, and I'm co-chair of the 2022 Woods Hole Black History Month Committee. And we have 6 or possibly 7 activities going on, from book readings to panels and discussions, a virtual film festival partnered with the Woods Hole Film Festival. So the best way to get there, if you'd like to see what the activities are and register for them, is Woods Hole. Just search Woods Hole Black History Month. That's the first thing that comes up.
All right.
And just for some context, the Woods Hole Black History Month Committee was started over 40 years ago by a group of African-American scientists in Woods Hole who lived all over the Cape and some off the Cape, but they wanted to do something specifically in Woods Hole. And so that has just evolved over the years. So it's welcoming to everyone, but we keep the legacy, and that's why we still call it the Woods Hole Black History Month Committee.
All right. Good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then could we just make an announcement about North Falmouth Elementary School for, maybe, Mr. Suso, if you could just sort of make an announcement about that?
Certainly.
Where?
Yeah, we were notified by the building department and the fire department that unfortunately there's a problem with the sprinkler system in North Falmouth Elementary School that compromises public safety there. So until a part is replaced and some maintenance is completed, North Falmouth Elementary is not going to be able to operate. So that's the situation that arose today. Part of it was caused by the low temperatures and a freezing situation that arose over the weekend as well. So we're guardedly optimistic that that can move forward with a repair quickly and be back in session.
Will the children go to a different assignment, different school?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but I don't have the details of that, so that will have to unfold
Well, it
with the
depends on the time.
principal and superintendent.
That may happen if it's a prolonged shutdown, but if it's a day or two, they'll just extend just North Falmouth's year.
Okay. Any other announcements? All right, public comment. I think we have a couple of folks here that are looking to do public comment.
My name is Richard Doobie, Blacksmith Shop Road. I would just like to leave some documentation with the board, brief documentation pertaining to the firearms, the Falmouth Police Department, the disposal. One is Chapter 7 from the Inspector General's Manual on 30B. Chapter 7 is disposal of surplus properties. In that, you will see there is absolutely no recommendation whatsoever for taking individual units and grouping them together for a group price. I've also going to leave with you Section 15 of 30B, which is tangible supply disposition, which also has absolutely nothing to do with grouping items together as far as pricing is concerned. And lastly, you'll find what is basically a screenshot from a website that is used by firearms enthusiasts, truegunvalue.com, in which the trade-in value of AR-15s in 80% condition, that is 8 out of 10, which is pretty darn close to perfect, as of yesterday was $321.61. It varies day to day. This is sort of like the stock market. You've got to go to it and visit it and find out what it is. It has never come close, that I've been monitoring it, to anywhere near the $500 that would require a $10,000 total for the 21 firearms involved. So if at all possible, I'd like to leave this with you.
Okay.
That'd be okay?
And I think we did get some
Thank
of
you.
that, right? Yes. Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Dan.
You guys are aware that I've complained.
Could you introduce yourself for everybody?
Diana Moda, 30 Court Real Ave, East Falmouth, Mass. Do you want my phone number, too?
No, that's-
I've been complaining because of the conditions of our roads. I filed 2 insurance claims. I left everything with Diane Davis since September. Now, everyone wants to pass the buck, Mass DOT, whatever it is. But this is what the town is responsible for. I don't know what happened in the past. I'm not blaming anybody, but this is how it's supposed to be, because we pay for it. Excise tax and road conditions, infrastructure. Roads in our cities and towns are a disgrace. And the taxpayers are the ones that are paying an extra excise tax on top of what we already pay for our property taxes. If we're going to continue to allow cities and towns the ability to charge property tax and excise tax, why can't it be mandated that this be allocated for road infrastructure only? Excise tax is a bill that we pay on the value of our vehicles. Why does Massachusetts have this excise tax? To raise money, of course. But unfortunately, the excise tax goes into a general fund of each city or town that they collect this tax, and this is what they said. I asked them why. And the woman said, motor vehicle excise tax revenue goes into a general fund for support of the general operating budget. Use of the general fund revenue just so happens to be unrestricted. So if that's the case, I can reimburse myself. It just so happens that 99.9% of Falmouth residents have no idea that this insurance exists. The transparency is lacking, and it's lacking hard. Those monies are not being earmarked. Of course, elected officials could spend it on road repairs, but not only neglect to remedy the road conditions, they sit back as the potholes get bigger and bigger. There would be a good connection, cars, roads. But I suppose that would be like robbing Peter to pay Paul, and would create a huge hole in another part of our municipal budgets. One thing about the excise tax, if there's anything to like about it, at least I know it goes to my community. But they choose to sit back and ignore the fact that our cars are being destroyed due to these road conditions. The town has had more than sufficient amount of time to remedy the situation, but they have neglected to do so. Therefore, the town is liable for any damage that has been sustained to my Jeep. In Needham, Mass., a man and his wife drove 2 identical BMWs, the same year, same color, same wheels. Everything was the same. But what wasn't identical was the excise tax. It wasn't even close. The first full year that the two of them had those cars, one bill was $659. The other, $816. That's a difference of $157 or 25%.
Ms. Mata, our public comment is usually limited to 2
Okay,
minutes.
well, can I just finish?
Well,
Doug, I never come here, so if I come, I'm coming here for a reason. I don't have a limit, okay? This is my building.
you don't have a limit.
No, I don't. Because I'm going to finish what I have to say, Doug. Because I've tried to help. You said you wanted to help me before, and all you did was beat around the bush. So let me beat around this bush. The response that they received from the elected officials was, this is the value that we have. You have to call BMW for that. Since drivers don't see the tax bill that's sent to the lease company and then passed on to us, we have no idea what we're paying. There's no way for someone like me to know what to do. All right, whatever. If we don't pay it, they flag your license, and that's how it is. Bottom line. I haven't paid mine. I refuse to pay it. Like, who controls this? Who oversees this? MGL Chapter 81, Section 18. The roads like the potholes, bumps, ruts, car parts, debris are defect, anything in the condition of the way that renders it unsafe or inconvenient for ordinary travel. Limited to 4K is what the person's limited to. This is MGL Chapter 84, Section 15. If a person sustains bodily injury or damage to property by reason of defect or want of repair, and such injury or damage could have been prevented or may have been remedied by reasonable care and diligence on the part of the county, city, or a person that's obliged by law to repair them. If said city or town had exercised the power and care and diligence, it might have had reasonable notice of defect in roadways, and I wouldn't be standing here in front of you. The road defect statute states repair of roadways or bridges. Section 1 announces the purpose of the chapter language that reflects. Listen, basically, Doug, I'm going to leave this here, Doug. Listen, I'm going to leave this here.
That's a good idea.
He's got the bills to my car. I've spent over $6,000. Then it's in the shop. The stupid guy cuts the wire to my alarm. That's another $4,000. Here.
Thank you. We'll take it.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
I have
you can leave the whole
bottom
thing.
too, okay?
Yep.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Megan.
thank you.
Good night, guys. See you later.
There you go.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment this evening? Yes.
Good evening, Selectmen. I'm following up again on the status of the spare engine for Falmouth Fire Department. Maury Harlow Hawks, West Falmouth. During the storm, Engine 24 had to be taken offline to de-ice at headquarters, leaving Station 4 devoid of an engine. We are very fortunate to have 4 men dispatched to the West Falmouth station for the storm, but unfortunately no engine. It took Engine 23 approximately 20 minutes to arrive to a fire alarm at 140 Chappaquoit Road, less than 3/4 of a mile away from the West Falmouth station, because Engine 24 was down. We truly do need this spare engine ASAP. I know it has been a terrible struggle for finding one to fit the needs that we have, and maybe this would be the perfect time to start changing direction to a fast response vehicle and reconsidering the size of the station and what we might need. But also, I really look forward to the public meeting on Thursday, 7 p.m. at Lawrence School to discuss the Hatchville Fire Station and how we're coming on with that.
I'd love to respond because we do have some information, but we
I
have
actually-
this policy of not responding, so it's good.
But can we just back up for a minute, because I
Do an
actually,
announcement?
well, I dropped the ball on that, because I actually was gonna ask, we kind of went straight into public comment, but I was gonna actually ask, Town Manager Suso to make, the second announcement was about any update on that, because I know that we actually have an
We have
update. So I was
info.
gonna ask you to make an announcement about the school in West Falmouth, if you could do that.
Well, sure, I'm happy to advise that the fire department continues to pursue a used replacement engine, and they have identified one that is subject to some ongoing inspections. We're hoping we can bring that to closure. I do not have an exact date, but that process continues to unfold, and the fire department continues to work on it diligently. May I also comment, Mr. Chairman, because the board received an email from me over the weekend, there was a house fire in New Silver Beach, and I just want to confirm that the first arriving unit was from the fire engine from the West Falmouth station. Unlike what has been represented, there was one in service, responded to a fire, and was first on scene in New Silver Beach.
And we did get a lengthy email from Chief Smith explaining the steps that he's taking.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
Right.
unusual to respond, but it's informational.
Right.
We're not countering your.
Right, well, I know it's not a debate, but I know exactly why the fire engine was being de-iced, because it was already on a call, which means they can't go out with this block of ice to the next thing, because their hoses are all frozen and everything. I get that, but that's what I'm saying, without a spare engine, it makes it difficult. And again, the fast response vehicles fit in any station, everybody's using them. They've got to start looking at these things, because they're affordable, and they're four-wheel drive, and in a blizzard, they're wonderful. But I appreciate everybody working on it, because it was sort of looking for a unicorn. It's not the easiest thing to find. And also, the budget was not the biggest one we could have had. But anyway, I appreciate your time, and thank the DPW as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And now, we have.
We have one more.
Oh, here we go.
I'll pass them on.
Could you please?
I will do that for you.
Mark Finneran, Grand Ave. I'd like to just speak on the proposed power line down the middle of the park at Worcester Court, which I can look out my window and see numerous families playing ball every day in the summertime, screaming, yelling. I mean, there's a few families that are there for hours and hours on end. And what you have here is kind of a review of a study that was done in Korea on 186, well, actually it was done in 15 countries, on 186,000 children on leukemia, lymphoma, and brain tumors, and due to electromagnetic fields. The study found that children exposed to 2 milligausses, which is how you measure electromagnetic fields, had a 26% higher chance for leukemia. 4 milligrams or milligausses, they had a 72% more chance of developing cancer. And then over that, the risk doubled. It's a hard conversion between that and, you know, the megawatts that the cable is. You really have to measure it with an EMF meter. But some smart meters give off more than the 4 milligausses. And there is some science, actually a lot of science, that has a direct correlation between pregnant women and young children sleeping on the opposite side of smart meters, which is supposedly, and we'll hear soon, but the evidence seems to be there, that it causes numerous child disorders, including autism. And that's the one that we've been dealing with. The numbers for autism have been going up forever.
What's a smart meter?
Anything that you have with solar panels, or if you're on the, you know, how they regulate your power flow with a smart, I've never had one. Oh, actually, I have one on my rental. But, I mean, this needs to be studied. And, I mean, it's a hard conversion because the same amount of electromagnetic force at the equator, well, in the one I just read, was measured at 300, which is the same as 3. It's a different measurement. And at the North Pole, it's 1,000. So there's a conversion factor due to latitude. But the evidence is there, and we really should take a hard look at this, especially you, Sam, with your background in physics. I really don't think that this risk is worth the $20 million, which, over 20 years, which is what I've heard the proposal is from Mayflower Wind. They can find another place to run it. And I'm sorry, it's like Mr. Moriarty said, they're just looking for a backdoor to get the taxpayer to pay to improve the electric infrastructure in this town. And just one more note, I mean, Maury mentioned it, but the notice for the meeting Thursday on the new fire station in Hatchville was kind of hidden in the paper. It's tough some weeks to get everything that you want in the 12 pages he has in the front section. But I just want everyone to know, and I think the people from North and West Falmouth, as well as the people from Hatchville, have an interest in finding out what we plan on doing with our $8 million in expired debt.
Just say the time and
It's at 7 o'clock at the Lawrence School, 7 to 8:30, and any interested taxpayer really should be there.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
certainly.
Hi, everyone. Dave Moriarty, Falmouth, Massachusetts citizen. I'd just like to alert everyone, all the citizens of Falmouth and all the elected officials, to the Leukemia Research Foundation, 191 Waukegan Road, Northfield, Illinois, is having an open house, sort of a town meeting type thing, where you can call in, you can Zoom in, you can ask your questions. These people are the experts, the leading experts on leukemia and blood cancer. And it's going to be on February 6th at 1:30. And let me give you the person who's hosting it, Carrie Callis. Her number is 847-917-6247, and her email is carrie@inframail.org. carrie@irfmail.org. Thank you.
Spell her first name, please. Is it Carrie or Kerry?
Carrie.
Spell it for me.
Carrie.
Okay.
Callas. Callas.
Thank you.
And it would behoove everyone in town to chime in and ask the experts.
What's that email again? Carrie at?
Carrie. Hold on a second. I got to go back. Callas. Callas. And they're taking,
I was interested in the email.
Oh, the email.
At infra.
Oh, okay, hold on. Carrie, CARRIE@IRFMAIL.org. And again, the open house is the second, no, it's February 2nd. February 6th, I'm sorry, at 1:30. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, is that it for public comment for this evening? Well, then, we'd like to welcome our new town council. Mr. Suso, would you like to introduce us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's my pleasure to introduce to the board and recommend the appointment of Myra O'Keefe as town council successor to our longtime town council Frank Duffy. Myra comes to us most recently as the assistant city solicitor in the city of Newton for the past 12 years. And Myra also serves on the executive board of the Massachusetts Municipal Lawyers Association. And some of us saw her as one of the two presenters today on municipal law before the Massachusetts Municipal Management Association. So we're delighted to have an individual of Maura's background and experience, and I respectfully request that the board would consider affirming that appointment. And Maura is here with us this evening, along with town council and our Kim as well from the town council's office. And I think Maura's prepared to make a few comments and answer a few questions.
Good evening, everybody. I am Maura O'Keefe, and I am humbled and honored to be here tonight. I'm just going to say a couple of words, and what I really want to convey to you is that I cannot wait to start working and providing advice, counsel, and to support to this great town of Falmouth and to all of the very talented people who work here. I'm just ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. Thank you.
Great. Can you start soon?
March 7th.
Well, that's pretty good. Can you wait that long, Frank? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for your help in
Frank.
getting Maura to us as
He has a lot to teach me yet, so
Yeah.
so little patience
Okay.
with him getting out.
Big shoes to fill, but.
Absolutely.
glad
I
to
know
see
that.
You've got a great background here with your resume. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think Angela might have a question.
I do.
Okay.
I noticed you live in Franklin. And
I do.
That's quite a commute, and I'm wondering if you have any plans to move to Falmouth.
I already started looking. As soon as Julian extended the offer, I immediately got on apartment.com and I started looking. My intent is to relocate. I will say, however, that the commute is about an hour, which is what it takes me to get to Newton from Franklin. It's been my usual commute the whole time that I was working at Newton. It's been an hour solid, and it was actually quite an enjoyable commute. I just listened to some podcasts, and then I'm here. But I do want to, I want to move on to the Cape.
Okay. Well, we're going to waive we consider waiving the resident requirement for a while, but it's great to hear that you intend to move. And I sometimes threaten to put a 2-year limit or something on it, but I know it's difficult to purchase a home here. It's very expensive, and so we'll give you some time, but I'm glad to hear that you intend to come. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to accept Mr. Suso's appointment.
I motion to affirm the appointment of Maura O'Keefe for appointment of town council.
And waive the residency requirement?
And waive the residency requirement.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you
Maura.
very much.
Appreciate it. Mr. Suso, did you want to give us a little preview of our evening this evening?
Certainly.
Meeting this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. In my report, I gave, again, this is a process that's evolving, but I do have some preliminary comments and then some supplemental ones for later in the evening. And preliminary is attempting to touch on some of the things that are coming on your agenda. I've mentioned, of course, as you know, Ms. O'Keefe joining us as incoming Falmouth Town Council. Also, the board will be taking up a request for a waiver of the Townsflow neutral bylaw. And as required under separate cover in your package, you have a recommendation from wastewater Superintendent Amy Lowell, as well as Health Agent Scott McGann. This is a property that had been a mixed use, commercial and residential in the past. I note that it is evolving into a fully residential property. And as noted by both Amy and Scott, the wastewater capacity is sufficient to accommodate this proposal, should the board choose to issue this waiver. And there is sufficient space on the property, according to Scott, to site a Title V system, should that, would that have been necessary. And so this appears reasonable to me, and I'm bringing this forward to the board. You also have a copy of your checklist that sort of gives you some guidance on economic development, affordable housing, and similar items like that, that you had adopted to guide you in that decision. Continuing, the board is, later in the agenda, the board is asked to revisit your earlier vote. This is under business. The first item is discuss and vote preference for potential municipal light plant board. A discussion on this evolved, as you'll recall, at your Saturday work session when you were having a discussion with a member of the Falmouth Net board. It was not specifically listed on your agenda, for an intended vote for the Municipal Light Plant Board, but it evolved into that. So to assist the board, this has been placed on your agenda. Should you choose to revote that and move in that same direction you've already outlined, then the following item under that would involve consideration of adopting the articles for the April town meeting. One of those articles, of course, is Article 27, which would contemplate such a vote petitioning the legislature for a special act and to have a vote on a municipal light plant board with the November general election later this year. And that presumes, of course, that town meeting would vote affirmatively on both Articles 25 and 26, which you have yet to place on the warrant as well, but are before you this evening also. You also have a letter from Clerk Michael Palmer expressing some concerns as clerk regarding the potential consideration of placing this item, if it does go forward with town meeting, as a special election. He is recommending that you consider instead allowing that to move forward to the May 2023 annual municipal election. That would be 6 months later. And in answer to an inquiry that I had from Select Member Patterson, I had an estimate from Town Clerk Michael Palmer that this special election were to go forward would, in his estimation, cost about $10,000. So that would be the amount. And most of that is for printing and preparation of the ballots as opposed to labor. Labor cost would be minimal, according to Michael Palmer. Also, as noted, you'll be considering the 38 potential articles for the upcoming April town meeting, including 6 articles received through the petition process. And as you know, by protocol, you'll be having a presentation on the 6 petition articles at your first meeting in February, and you'll consider taking a position and recommendation at your last meeting in February. Also, St. Barnabas is seeking a routine variance to allow them to continue posting temporary signage for their annual seasonal events, and I think most of us are very familiar with them. They've been holding those consistently for a number of years, and given that the signage is temporary, it is not subject to historical review. I do recommend the board's favorable consideration. And last sort of high-profile item, as you know, Mr. Chairman, we had a conversation with a representative from the county regarding the county's Arpa funds. And there's a discussion, as you've commented on and others, about potentially making that available to municipalities. The town of Falmouth, as a reminder, was granted $3.1 million from the federal government, might have been a little closer to 3.2. For ARPA funding, the county has gotten about $41 million. That amount is attributable strictly to the respective populations in each one of the municipalities, including Falmouth. There was a factor generated at the federal level that resulted in the 41+ million going to the county. And this board sent an earlier letter that my colleague Peter transmitted to the county with a position from this board on the ARPA funding. One of the things that's suggested that we consider emphasizing now, as you know, Mr. Chairman, is if this board is so inclined, that we transmit a follow-up letter strongly suggesting to the county that they make that ARPA money available back to the municipalities strictly based on population, the way it was initially allocated by the federal government. That way, this Board of Selectmen can make the decision on how you want to spend that and set the priorities for the town of Falmouth. Each other municipality in the Commonwealth can do the same thing. So that would be something that's on your agenda to take a vote on, should you choose to do so. And those are the highlights that came to my attention.
And unfortunately, I've come to realize that I'm going to have to recuse myself from that vote, because as a county representative and a town representative,
Assembly.
I really can't vote on at either place.
Okay.
And so I've always thought that this co-position was helpful because I can come back and report to the board, but in this case, it's a hindrance, and I'm thinking maybe it's not so smart to continue both roles going forward, so I might not
Can I just ask,
continue that.
and I don't want to get into it now, but can we just ask for town council at some point to just give us a little more of a dig in on that piece? Because the money isn't coming, I mean, we're talking about how they're going to.
Well, I'm an employee of the town and of the county. So
Right, but
there's a
none of those
conflict,
funds are going to you.
Right?
I could see a conflict being that you're advocating for it to be divided a certain way, but none of those funds are coming to you. So that's why I understand, and I think it's important to raise that, but I don't know if it strictly requires you to recuse yourself. So maybe we can just get some way in, because that issue will probably come
I did
up.
call the State Ethics Commission, and I did receive advice that that's likely the best course, is
Okay.
to recuse myself on both. Yes, Sam?
Doesn't the question then become, if we're town meeting members and select board members, do we have to recuse ourselves on certain kinds of votes? I mean, I think we need to appeal to our town council to give us clarification on this.
I can speak to the second point. I can speak to the second point because there's a specific provision in the conflict of interest law with respect to town meeting members. So there is no conflict. Town meeting members are exempt from conflict of interest. The first issue I cannot speak to.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you don't like doing quick opinions, but do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Chairman, Frank Duffy, Town Council for the time being anyways. No, but I'm perfectly willing to sit down and try and review it with you. I've always kind of felt that that the conflict of interest law, there's like a fence, and you're on one side of the fence or the other. And it seems to me you're kind of on the fence right now.
Yeah.
So
That's about how I
maybe
feel.
we can figure out an answer to it.
All
But
right.
I certainly value your service in both places.
Appreciate that, thanks. Okay, so with that, I guess we'll get into our public hearings. We're a few minutes late. Application for a new all-alcoholic beverages common victual license in Lemonade LLC, located at 284 Main Street, Falmouth.
Moriarty's looking.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
Come to the mic, Dave.
One more comment from Mr. Moriarty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, those are just preliminary.
Yes.
We're going to be looking at all those items.
Yeah, good question.
We're trying a new format, and maybe we got to abbreviate it a little bit more. Oh, yeah, there's no vote now. That was just a warm-up for what we're going to be doing, so folks at home can know. So we're going to read the public hearing notice now.
That's us, the Limani?
Yes, yeah, I'm
Yes,
just
it
gonna
is.
read the
Yeah.
public hearing notice, yeah.
Yeah.
You can go. Notice is hereby given under chapter 138 of the general laws as amended that Lamani LLC has applied for an all-alcohol common victual license to be located at 824 Main Street, Falmouth. Hearing will be held in the Select Board's meeting room, Falmouth Town Hall, Monday, January 31st, 2022, at 7:30 PM on the above application. This is per the Select Board, and it was published in the Falmouth Enterprise on January 21st. Welcome.
Welcome, come on up.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one comment, pardon me? There was just want to note for the record, there was a transposition of the address on the agenda for the Select Board. The 2 and the 8 were inadvertently
Yes.
reversed, but all the information you have and the notices are straightforward as they should be.
But as long as the notice, this was the notice and this is correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, welcome.
We are delighted to come to the town of Falmouth.
I'm just going to tell you, you have 10 minutes, okay?
Yes, we're delighted to come to the tank. Thank you for having us. My name is Natalia de Mercedes, and my brother and I would open up the Limani LLC restaurant on Main Street. It's a Greek authentic cuisine, and we're here to obtain our liquor license. We've been doing very well for the past 2 months, and we're very, very happy that the town of Falmouth has welcomed us and
I've been hearing good things.
Yes,
I've heard
thank
lots
you.
of good
Very
things.
good reviews.
You're
You're all welcome. Great
Thank you.
food.
Can't wait.
Thank you.
It's a great-looking menu. Yes, Mr.
Well,
President.
are you tip certified?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Perfect.
And we always ask the new managers, who's going to be the manager again? Will it be-
He's the owner, I'm the manager, Natalia
Okay.
is my, yeah.
So you will be the one responsible for the liquor license, and any concerns that are arising from that will be coming to you?
Yes.
Okay.
I would move approval. I don't see any, it looks like they checked all the boxes in terms of departments not
Right.
raising any concerns, so I'd move approval.
I'd second that.
All right, any other comments from the board? All right, I
Welcome.
would
Thank
entertain
you.
a motion in a second. We have it, so all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
You're all welcome
Good
to our
luck.
restaurant.
Okay,
Can't
thank
wait.
you. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Next, we have application for a new all alcoholic beverages common victual license, WOHO LLC, doing business as Provisions, located at 87 Water Street, Units 1 and 2, Woods Hole. Welcome, Mr. Ament.
Should we read?
This notice, oh, sorry, I was just going to say that this notice was published on January 21st in the Falmouth Enterprise, noting today's hearing regarding what Chairman Brown just read forth.
Okay, we knew you were coming.
Hi, Mr. Brown and members of the board. I'm Bob Ament. I'm a Falmouth attorney. I'm here representing Colleen Parrish, who is in the audience, along with her husband, Jeff Parrish. The Parrishes have lived in Falmouth. Colleen's been here since 1988. And they have a long history of restauranting and operating a food market in Falmouth. Jeff operated the Main Street Pizza and Deli from 1993 until the two of them began Firefly Restaurant in 2002, which they operated for a few years before they sold it. Of course, had a full liquor license. Colleen ran Jimmy's Sandwich Shop in Woods Hole from 2000 to 2014. She basically also at the same time was running the West Falmouth Market from 2002 to 2019, which had a full package store license. And they've been running the Woods Hole Market in Woods Hole since 2010. The market is a tough business. It's highly seasonal. It has little parking. It has a lot of competition from the big stores and now from deliveries. So they're trying to figure out a way to sustain the market, which is important to the community. So Colleen is going to start a restaurant primarily on the second floor of the building at 87 Water Street. It's not a big restaurant. Total number of seats inside and outside, most of them outside. 67 seats. That compares to Shuckers, which is right next door, which has 120 occupancy. And on the other side, the Captain Kidd is licensed for 317 people. And for comparison, the Woods Hole Kitchen has 86 seats. Colleen, this will be Colleen running this. It's her LLC. The market will be continuing on the first floor. Colleen has completed TIPS training. She is certified in allergy awareness. She also has Safe Serve certification. When we started off with the permitting to go to the Architectural Access Board at the state because it's an old historic building, and they agreed that as long as there was some handicap parking on the handicap seating on the first floor, which is planned, it would not need an elevator to the second floor. We also have been to the planning board for site plan review, where 850 people either submitted letters or signed petitions in favor of the restaurant. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved the proposed restaurant. And we came to the Board of Selectmen some months ago to get your waiver or your variance under the flow neutral bylaw to allow that. So we have an eminently qualified person applying for the license in a great location, and something that the community will want. I had actually loaded into the computer a wonderful picture of the second floor deck. That will be used, but you'll get back on your schedule a little better if I don't show you that. So, thank you.
We'll have to see it in person.
What's that?
We'll have to see it in person.
Field trip.
Yes, we need to all go.
Site visit.
Yeah.
We'll inspect the dining facilities. Okay.
So, I mean, I would just say, obviously, the parishes have had lots of establishments that everyone's familiar with. I don't recall there being a history of problems at any of the places that Attorney Ament just enumerated that they've previously owned, so if there isn't an objection.
I guess I made a mistake on the previous hearing. I didn't ask for public comment, and I'm going to ask for it now on this project. If I missed anybody that wanted to comment on the past project, go ahead and speak up. But I'm going to say that now for this one because I should always do that.
Can I ask one quick question, and that is on accessibility? Can you just say that I didn't hear everything you said about that in terms of not having to have an elevator as long as there's handicapped access on the first floor?
Yes, there are
That's
5
just what I need
seats
to know.
shown in the back, behind the store. Also, there is seating, 16 seats, I believe it is, proposed for the first ground level patio that is also handicap accessible. The second floor will not have an elevator, but for people who need more space who can get up there, there is 1 seat specifically designated by the decision of the Architectural Access Board that will be accessible on the second floor, but not with an elevator.
Thank you.
And I just had one quick question.
Okay.
Thoughts about seasonality? Are you thinking seasonal, year-round?
Year-round, if we can make it happen.
I'll have to
It's
come
part
up.
of
Give him a chance
keeping
to-
the store going.
We'll give you a chance later to come up to the mic, because otherwise the people listening in on television would.
Or attorney?
Well, the struggle that Colleen and Jeff have had over the years is the extent of seasonality with their market. Market obviously is very important to the community, but the community is quite seasonal. They have been open year-round at times, but there have also been years, and this is one of them, when, and perhaps because of COVID, when business is so slow that they cannot operate. And also, in the last year or two, staffing has become more and more of a problem and has affected how much the store can be open, even in season. So it's a challenging business. The market in any restaurant is a challenging business, but hopefully the restaurant will help them to sustain the restaurant, and if they can be open all year round, then they would like to.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and I see here that the music it's requested will be acoustic only. Is that correct?
There's a notice that the entertainment license was not on the agenda, so that's.
We have to do
gonna
it at our February
okay,
meeting.
that's another one. Okay.
So I don't know if you saw that, but somehow the entertainment license didn't get public
That's-
notice, so we'll do that at
Sure.
another meeting.
Sure.
But-
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Any comments from the public? All right,
I would move approval.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck with
Thank
the
you.
new
Good luck.
project.
Thank you. Okay, I can read the public notice if you'd like for the next one.
Yes, please.
Okay.
We have a Wetlands Doc Hearing for Nina's Marina Realty Trust.
The Falmouth Select Board will hold a public hearing under Section 24077 Wetland Regulations of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, December 6, 2021, at 7:30 PM in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square, on the application of Nina's Marina Realty Trust, owner McKim trustees Melissa and William A., for permission to install new vinyl sheet pile bulkhead adjacent to and directly landward of the existing licensed timber bulkheads. The existing tongue and grooved timber sheathing shall be removed after the vinyl sheeting is installed. Location is 306 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth. Area affected is Falmouth Inner Harbor. Interested parties may review the file. This was published on November 19th and November 26th. And this is continued, I believe, from the earlier dates, continued from the 6th and then 6th of December, and then the 10th of January.
Right. Welcome, Mr. McGrath.
How do I turn that on? I'm sorry.
That's okay, it's just a computer that's in the drawer there.
Yeah, but computer's not.
Ike, I'm going to time you for 10 minutes once you get started.
What? I can't hear you.
Nice try. Nancy's voice carries quite well.
Where are you? Do you know, is it,
I sent them.
do you know what the file's called? Is it called colored or color exhibit?
Yeah, yes, please. Yes, perfect.
Look at that.
Wow. Can he stay here? No, I'm just being smart.
Oh, time's up.
right there.
But I'm trying to get back to the other one.
What was that? You didn't sell me off to the farm team, did you?
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor, and the firm Holmes & McGrath has filed this special permit request. Under the Falmouth zoning bylaw, if you alter the waterfront, not only do you need an order of conditions, but you're going to also need to get a special permit from the Board of Selectmen. So this site is located on Falmouth Inner Harbor. This portion, which I should have colored blue, is the waters of Falmouth Inner Harbor. And what we're proposing to do is this bulkhead is old and it's leaking material through the bulkhead. The way the bulkheads fail is the seams will actually grow over time through rot and things like that, and material will wash into the harbor. So what we're proposing to do is rebuild these bulkheads all the way along. And this plan, I should just describe a little bit more. Not only is this Falmouth Inner Harbor, but there's some riprap here. There's the timber bulkhead that comes around here. Then there's a change in elevation that's substantial, and there's a lower timber bulkhead there. Then there's beach and riprap. There's an existing house in the structure and a very large boat shed. This is the flood zone where this line right in here that comes across, this is a velocity zone, meaning that the waves in a 1 in 100-year storm will exceed 3 feet. And the rest of it is elevation, it's classified as AE, elevation 14. And that means that the waves are much smaller. They're generally a foot. So the way that we're going to get to the construction work is that we're showing a limit of work here, and we're showing a limit of work on this side. We're showing a temporary staging area here. We're showing a dewatering basin in this location, and as I said, there's a retaining wall here. So what I should now do probably is to this shows one of the two sections. And what we are proposing now is that right now there's a timber element here, a timber element here. This is the pile. Then there's existing tongue and groove sheeting. And so what the proposal is now is to cut the sheeting off right at this lower whale and then drive tongue and groove sheeting. It's driven by a equipment similar to a crane. When we do that, there are existing tie rods at every pile. So they're going to expose the tie rods, and then they'll put new tie rods in when they remove the existing timber veneer, and they're going to end up welding them here and here. We're building a new a new sand filter behind the boardwalk, and that is to catch all of the surface runoff. If I go back to the
Just go down.
Get down?
Nope, go all the way over to where your image isn't.
Right?
The other file that you needed to click on, right?
Yes.
You're going back to it? Here. wait a
Yes.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I found it.
Yeah, I think it's the one below that.
The one below that, yes. So what we're doing is we're collecting all the water from there, and we're actually pumping it up and putting it into the ground here. So what we're going to be doing is intercepting the surface runoff, so, and then piping it up here so that there's a sufficient travel distance for some treatment. Not there's anything in it to speak of. There may be some nitrogen from the surface, from the seeding. But in any case, the way that this will work is they will basically, after they weld this, they will restore all this. And so the other thing that when they take out this sheathing in here, they're going to have to slightly alter the framing right here. But the bottom line is we have an order of conditions. We have changed this slightly, so we've asked for an amended order of conditions, and they voted it. But if they issued it, they would have issued it today, but when I checked yesterday, they had not as yet issued it. So I believe that this is a perfectly appropriate special permit because there's real benefits in that we're going to stop erosion of silt into Falmouth Inner Harbor. This material is basically watertight and waterproof. We're going to then improve a substantial structure that's on the shores of Falmouth Inner Harbor. We're also going to basically intercept surface runoff and pipe it as far away as we can from the harbor, and there will then be treatment of the discharge fluid between here and the waters of the harbor. So I believe this is a perfectly appropriate project, and I hope that you would vote the special permit. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the board? Not, I have one. I did see that they sent the revised work plan, which was very thoughtful, and it's nice to see that the people that realized that the order conditions were not going to work, that they gave a heads up and explained the process a little more clearly. So that was good. One question I have is, will the piles be driven by actual pile driver or vibrating in?
We always specify that the piles be driven because jetting piles, they don't have the strength that driving piles do.
I thought there was a vibrating.
Oh, you can vibrate them in too.
Because that would be less disruptive to the neighbors.
Yes, we could vibrate them in if required.
I don't want to throw something at you that's not feasible. I was just curious if you knew offhand if that, because I know in projects I've been aware of in the past that when there's proximity to neighbors or noise is a concern, they use a vibrator rather than the pile driver.
Yes.
Can we just say that if it's possible to use that, we will?
Yes. Why don't we leave it like that? Because there's already been obviously significant amount of design effort by not only my firm but the marine contractor.
Right.
So I think I also should have said that when we replace the piles, they're going to be taller because the boat that now ties up is taller above the water line, and we don't want it to get caught on the piles.
Okay, it looks like a pretty well thought out project. Any last concerns or questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Oh, I think we have to.
Chairman, do you want to ask for public comment?
Yes. Is there public comment?
And then I would, seeing none, I'd move to close the hearing.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
And unless there's any other discussion from the board, I would move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very well done. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McGrath.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have Wetlands Doc Hearing for Daniel M. Soline, installation of a light-duty dock in the waters of Coonamessett Pond at 91 Adamansett Road, Hatchville.
I'll read the public hearing notice. Falmouth Select Board will hold a public hearing under Section 240, 14.8, wetland regulation of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, January 31st, 2022, at 7:30 PM in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Townhouse Square, on the application of Daniel Solian for permission to permit and license a light-duty dock, including existing cobble riprap in Coonmessett Pond, located at 91 Adamansett Road, Hatchville, Mass. Affected areas, Coonmessett Pond. Interested parties may review the file, and this was published January 14th and January 21st in the Falmouth Enterprise.
Just a minute, please. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. All right. Well, good evening. I'm Jeff Ryther with BSS Design, representing the applicants, and Dan back here, Dan Celine.
Hi.
He's with us tonight.
If you're uncomfortable with the mask, you can take it off to speak if you'd like.
Sure, thank you. Just a minute while I get prepared here. So at this site, this is in Hatchville on the Coonmessett Pond. We've proposed a small light-duty dock comprising of, we have basically a 4-foot wide walkway and a little, fixed dock at the end. It's 8 by 12 dimensioned on the plan. The overall length is 24 feet from the beginning on the stone riprap. And speaking of the stone riprap, we'd also like to license the existing stone riprap that comes around this entire site here. That was there for years now. Again, it's the maximum area that the Concom allows for this type of dock is 100 square feet at the end. So we're at 96 square feet on the 8 by 12 dimensions. We also have a little aluminum ladder for swimming. It's basically going to be a little for canoes and kayaks, fishing, and you name it.
We had a letter that was a reminder about a 5 horsepower limit on the pond. Are you aware of that?
Yes, yes, we are.
So we're going to probably make a reminder of that in our decision.
We also have an order of conditions issued a couple of weeks ago. So we're all set in that department. The harbor master said no problem. And that about does it. I'll take your questions.
Any questions from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Okay. Is there anything that we should be paying attention to with regard to an application like
I
this?
think you're good to go.
Yeah, it looks pretty minor.
Yep, everything from Concom, so.
Yep.
Is the 5 horsepower maximum a condition? I didn't get a chance to read these because we just got
We
them.
had a letter from an abutter who just pointed out that that is the case. and
On the pond.
On the pond
they
itself.
appreciate that, so if we would consider putting that in as a condition,
Reminder.
they would appreciate it.
Okay, with that reminder of that existing condition, I would, let me move to close the hearing.
Close the hearing, yep.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor of closing hearing?
Aye.
Okay, and then I would move approval with that reminder of the existing limitation for the horsepower.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Now we have
the
Wetlands
next
Doc Hearing for George Basocios. How do you say that last name?
Syhojos?
Syhojos?
I don't know.
Syhojos?
Syhojos, yes?
Syhojos, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me read the hearing. This is a public hearing notice. The Falmouth Select Board will hold a public hearing under Section 240-14A, wetlands regulation of the zoning bylaws of the town of Falmouth on Monday, January 31st, 2022, at 7:30 PM in the Select Board Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, 59 Town Hall Square, on the application of George and Alyssa Sohojos for permission to construct a pier, ramp, and float in the waters of Sitters Pond, located at 94 Emmons Road, Falmouth, Mass. Area affected is Sitters Pond. Interested parties may review the file of this hearing at the Office of the Select Board. This was published January 14th and January 21st in the Falmouth Enterprise, and this, I think, is the one that we received new orders of condition on today.
Correct. Correct.
Am I up near the X? I'm trying to X out of this one.
Nope, go up further, a little bit further.
Now
you go.
hit it.
Right there? And the Sohojos is down here. Okay, again, I'm Jeff Ryther, BSS Design, representing Alyssa and George Sohojos. This is at, right here, at Sitters Pond, right behind us. The proposal is to construct a little sort of pier ramp float, but it's all, small components. For instance, this little area is the pier. We have a little ramp here and a float, again, 8 by 12, under the maximum requirement by conservation. Overall length, I believe, is 25 feet on this one. And, it'll be built right at the shoreline. They're going to use this also, boating and swimming. You'll notice that the soundings are quite deep. We're somewhere in the area of 9 feet right off the end of this. I don't know if you have a package in your hand on the drawings, but quite deep in that edge of the pond. We have a profile of this, and I can't see the screen very well, but is it on this sheet here, right up here?
What are you looking for, the profile?
Yeah.
Yes, on the
shoreline.
Down here? Yeah, here we go.
There we go, yep.
So here's the plan view at 10 scale. And again, the pier, the ramp with a railing, and float. I guess that'll do it.
That's seasonal, comes out.
That's, yeah, this one's going to be, well, could be either way, but
If it's a float, it's probably seasonal, right?
most likely it's going to be seasonal.
Okay.
Be frozen in this year.
That's right.
Question from the board? Questions or comments from the public?
I'll
Move that
move.
Go ahead.
I'll move to close the hearing.
Second?
All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve?
A motion approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Very good.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. And now we have flow neutral bylaw, evaluation of request for variance. Jeffrey and Donna Stearns at 156 T-Ticket Highway, East Falmouth, parcel 39-14-026-000.
And I'll just say that the public hearing related to what Selectman Brown just discussed was published on January 14th in the Falmouth Enterprise.
Good.
I don't know, Michael Leary, ML Construction. The Stearns couldn't make it, snow.
Okay.
They asked me just to pop in.
All right. So, we have a ton of information given by you for this hearing. Seems pretty clear that it's allowable. And anybody have questions or concerns?
Everything seems to be in order.
No, maybe if you can just very quickly for the public note that when we do these waivers, some of the things that we consider is whether or not we get information from the Falmouth Board of Health that the development can accommodate a Title V system. Doesn't mean that it needs it, because obviously it's attaching to, the whole goal is for it attached to the sewer, but that can accommodate that. It also takes into account a couple of different factors: economic development, affordable housing, mixed-use development, and municipal use as some of the things that we consider when we think about allowing this waiver.
And we do have capacity. We're getting close to the edge of it, but we still fit this in. And I just want to mention again, at some point, we're going to probably have to scrap that, whether or not the Title V septic can fit on the lot. I don't know how we'll have to have a separate agenda item to discuss that change of that policy, because it seems like it's inevitable that when people come back from Main Street, they're not going to meet that.
Yeah, correct, at some point, they're not going to meet it. A good example is the one we just had for the Woods Hole Market.
They can't have one.
Yeah, we got a negative on that from Scott McGann, understandably, but that does not prevent this
Right.
board from issuing the
It's
waiver.
a thing to consider.
Yeah, you just, consider it all as Select Woman Megan has said, Megan Braga has said, take that into consideration and make the call. It's just among the various factors you want to consider.
Right, okay. Well, so we have a very straightforward request. Is there a motion to,
Vote to
We gotta
close the
get
hearing?
I think we
public
wanna get-
comment about it? I don't think so. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
And is there a motion to approve?
A motion approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And just so, this really hits upon the housing component. So just so people understand, this is a project that's really looking, really creating some office retail space and then some, an apartment. So just so folks in the public understand what we considered if they didn't look at the packet.
Got to do it every way we can.
Thank you, that helps.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So now, under business, I'd like to consider taking out of order, since Reverend Mabane is here waiting patiently, if we can take the special events sign from St. Barnabas Church out of order. The board's agreeable?
Yes, I would agree. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, honorable members. Good to be before you. Before I say anything else, let me first say thank you to all in the town of Falmouth for the work you did in managing and taking care of the storm this weekend. Much appreciated.
That was these guys over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at.
Thank you, Reverend Will.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
throughout the town, the staff.
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we're here this evening because St. Barnabas is requesting a variance to the ordinance, the code that governs the placement of temporary signs on the property. Primarily because we are a very active community, used to be more active than we are now, but we hope to get back to welcoming even more people to the campus. And the way I understand the code reads now, we're allowed 2 signs a year for 7 days. We have one event, our Lobster on the Lawn, that's a 40-day event. So we need to have signage up during that period to advertise before and during. And so we're simply asking for an exemption from that variance, from that code, rather.
Okay. And is this the same sign that you've been using for years?
It is that the architecture has been there for years. We weren't even aware that we were not conforming until we got a visit.
Right.
And we're told that we were out of compliance.
Okay.
So it's been there for years, yes.
Okay.
I would just like to disclose that I am a member of St. Barnabas.
Okay. Do you feel like you can vote fairly?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to disclose that I like lobster, so I'm going to allow any variance.
every year.
Yeah, that
Every
ever
year.
has to do with lobster,
I'm going to
so.
disclose that my first wedding was at St. Barnabas.
Well, we do the Strawberry Festival as well, if you like
Yes.
strawberries, and we do the
Yes.
Christmas Fair.
Yes.
And just a series of events going on, and we want to be in compliance, and hence the request for the variance.
Now, I had somehow always assumed that churches were exempt from those type of rules, but I guess that's not the case.
No, we understand that they're not. For instance, John Wesley United Methodist comes in.
Right.
And actually, it's an annual requirement for which I apologize to notify you, Reverend Will, but technically, it's an annual requirement to come in. But
Okay.
once you are here with this package now, that was easy to replicate annually so that this can go forward with the concurrence of the board, of course.
And once we're familiar with the process, you may not need to come in. We just have it
Yes,
on
I think
our
Packet.
agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, this is part of the culture of the town, really, and it so much enhances the green and the historic nature of, St. Barnabas is clearly a part of Falmouth now. And so it's a shame we have to put you through this, but.
And the
I think
signage is so important, because
Yes.
who would think the average church doesn't have lobster on the lot?
Right.
So
Or
without the
strawberry,
sign,
yeah.
you're not gonna.
And it's
pay
open to
attention.
everybody, and it's a wonderful thing
Exactly.
that visitors and residents enjoy, so.
I'm getting a sense that the board is
I would
in
move for
favor.
approval.
I would second,
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a question about the fee?
We will,
Not in this application, that would be subsequent
Okay,
if that arises. yeah.
okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Will.
And now we're gonna go back to discuss and vote preference for a potential municipal light plant board. 10 minutes. We'll give you a minute. We'll take a little,
I'm just gonna grab a drink of water, I'll be really fast.
okay, quick breather.
In the meantime, could I ask, Mr. Palmer's letter, he's concerned about the November election, but I recall at our discussion that there was a reason why there was a timing issue of why we needed to do potentially a special election, or am I confusing that with the two votes for the municipal light plant being within 13 months of each other at town meeting?
The confusion is whether or not, the question is, I should say, is whether or not we want to do the extra work of asking the town clerk to hold a local issue on the state election. We need to petition for special legislation to get it approved, although I understand it's pretty commonplace and not a difficult process to achieve that.
At the same time, however, I wish we had the weigh-in from the town clerk prior to that conversation. I think it would have been really helpful.
Well, he probably didn't know.
Well, I'm not,
where
no,
we
I'm
were
not,
going.
right, but I'm not saying anything about him, but if something like that were to come up again, and if it were ever to even thinking about going to a vote, we need to have that information ahead of time.
Right.
That
But
makes
honestly,
sense?
I think Mr. Suso explained it pretty well. We were more in a discussion and we drifted off, and that's why Mr. Moriarty pointed out that we didn't really have that posted correctly, and I think that was fair to say.
And I actually, I was happy that David Moriarty kind of called us out on our process, because it's interesting how, depending on how it's listed on our agenda, whether it gets voted or not, but I've been in that gray space a couple of times where I say it's not on the agenda, or I ask for something and I've been redirected quite strongly that it can't be a vote, but then this one could. So I thought that was a good process to be looked at and to get advice from town council on.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I want to go back to Ms. Scott Price's question. I think you're correct that there is a time frame for the two votes to establish the municipal light plant within 13 months, but the election is not part of that timeline. So
Okay.
there's no time pressure if the board wanted to hold it in November or wait till the following May. Either one is going to be okay in terms of those statutory timelines.
The time pressure comes into play. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You go right ahead, you may answer the question, I
I
want to
was
say
going
a
to say
thing.
the time pressure comes into the fact of, if we're really going to do a project like this, do we want to go 6 months or a year? And, all these incremental delays really add up quickly. We could be facing construction in 2024, and construction costs might be higher. They seem to always increase. And so that's the question at hand, is whether it's worth it to push that schedule. And also, does it help us with keeping it fresh in people's minds? Because something this big and this important, if it lags for a year, people are going to start to think, maybe it's not so important if it could languish so long. Yes.
To that point, though, I think just as important is the grant money that's available today. That we're seeing 2024 as a cutoff for actually being able to expense those grants. And I'm more concerned about losing the opportunity to fund this project And delaying it 6 months, it just keeps pushing this thing way out, and we're likely to lose the opportunity to take advantage of grant opportunities. And we know there's a lot of money in the Arpa funding for broadband and infrastructure types of investments that towns can make. So, you know, I asked the question, how much is it going to cost us? And Julian has said about $10,000, but didn't we have to actually include your election to the board as part of a special election and tagged on to a state-only election?
I believe so, yeah.
Right, so we did this, we've done this before for important things like getting a full board. And I think this infrastructure is so critically important to giving us a robust economic development, you know, capability here or in this town. And I don't think that's a bad investment myself. So I'm in favor of, let's not just keep pushing this out and missing opportunities that could be there to at least help offset some of the burden.
Okay, and so that'll come up. Are we going to vote now? So discuss and vote preference for
say
potential
vote.
municipal light plant board.
Yeah, this would be to consider what you voted originally on that Saturday work session. That's to
Yes, sir, go ahead to the mic if you would.
to proceed with a requesting a special act, and then that this election be held along with the November state general election. But that would translate, just to keep in mind, that's going to translate to a warrant article, which is draft warrant article 27, which you consider as your next business item.
Right.
You have not approved that yet. But should you decide to go forward, you would include that as a warrant article, and ultimately, it's going to be up to town meeting.
Right.
Town meeting will either vote it up or down, along with Articles 25 and 26, which are petition articles from the Broadband, the Falmouth Net Committee.
Right.
May I just say something very
Just want to comment first?
Yeah, I have a few comments. Is there a way that this article can be, petition 22 can be limited to broadband, internet, Falmouth Net exclusively only?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I could respond to that?
Please.
I think Mr. Moriarty raises a really important point because it's a petition article. So the answer to the question is this board cannot change the petition article. It must be printed in the warrant as it was submitted by the petitioners. Now, it can be amended by the petitioners. They could modify the motion. They could have a substitute main motion on the floor of town meeting. They could bring forward, I suppose, even in a printed, I don't know if they could do it as a recommendation in the printed warrant, but they could certainly move a substitute main motion if they were so inclined, and there could be an amendment, or there could be an amendment by this board or by anyone from the floor of town meeting that wanted to make the article more explicit that the purpose is for broadband and not for electricity.
It could certainly be added to the explanation. I believe that the petitioners mentioned that there's some constraints within state law of how you have to have the framework in the town meeting. So I don't think there's a lot of flexibility there. But we can put an explanation that goes with it, and that is somewhat binding. Whenever we do a town meeting vote and there's some confusion, we always look back to the explanation and see what the intent was.
I think Attorney Duffy could answer that very quickly, because I know he's addressed this to many petitioners.
I think you're probably right.
Bless you. Bless you.
Frank Duffy, Town Council. The statute, and Mr. Moriarty's picked up on this, as a few other people, it's kind of confusing. The statute allows the town to adopt legislation to create a municipal light board for the purpose. The original purpose was to build a municipal light plant. Over the years, the statute has been amended a few times, and one of the things a municipal light board is allowed to do is to create a municipal broadband program. And it goes through the municipal light department. It's called municipal light, although it doesn't turn on any lights at all. It is broadband, and it's one of the purposes that is allowed under the auspices of a municipal light board. And everything that I have heard today about this program is that these folks, Falmouth Net, are interested only in broadband, have no interest whatsoever in municipal light.
Thank you.
And can that explanation, is that binding?
The question I had, Frank, was in terms of when town meeting votes, are they voting the explanation or are they voting the actual wording of that warrant?
Well, they vote, no, they don't vote either. There's an article which notifies people what they're going to talk about. Then there's a motion made.
Right.
It's the article as printed or the article as amended or whatever. The explanation isn't really part of the vote at all. It's just informative. So I think, as Mr. Johnson-Staub has mentioned, some care should be made, or at least thought of, coming up with the motion that's going to be made at town meeting floor.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Dave Moriarty, Falmouth citizen. So I guess my next question would be, so what's the rush? What's the hurry? Why don't we go through the normal procedure here and let it play out and let town meeting decide? What's the special legislation for?
No, that's only to request that we have an opportunity to elect the 5-member municipal light plant board members, because if we do create this, we're going to need a board, and the proposed board would be, I think, 5 members, similar to the size of this board. And then they would also need to hire a manager to do the day-to-day activities.
Right.
And so all that stuff takes time. So
Right.
if we wait.
And is the Falmouth taxpayers responsible for paying these
It
people?
comes after town meeting.
Yeah, town meeting still has to vote.
Right, so we should, I
doing
would
that.
feel more comfortable if we let that play out and let the people decide and the town meening members decide.
They're going to
Because,
decide.
because you can't open yourself up to this. There's just too many things that can go wrong with this.
I'm not sure what you mean.
You're going to become a energy company.
No.
That's exactly what this says. It's exactly what it says. Unless you can eliminate and limit it to and restrict it to broadband internet,
That's what.
that is exactly what this bill is all about.
If I may, that's exactly what, so if you've been following it, that's all that's been discussed, is broadband. And that's what Attorney Duffy is saying, that it's likely what is going to happen.
Well, we need that in the writing explicitly.
Yep, let me just
No
finish.
ifs,
That
ands, or
it's
buts.
likely what will happen is that there will be an amended motion at town meeting. So that's what we will actually be voting on, something that's specific, that says broadband, internet, and doesn't have all the other language that's
Right,
part of the statute.
That's why I would like it to just play out in town meeting and just have it
Well,
go
we're not
that way.
stopping that.
Yeah, we're trying to enhance it, expedite
It's
it.
going to town meeting.
Yeah, I know, and we don't really need a board yet, because we don't have we don't have a plant yet. We don't have a municipal light plant.
That's not what its purpose is.
So, well, we hope not. We absolutely hope not. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that never happens.
Okay.
So if that can't be done, then let's just let it play out and let the town meeting voters decide.
They will be voting it. We're not taking
But we
anything
don't
away-
need to have special legislation. It's not necessary.
No,
I don't
That's to
think you understand.
create the board.
So here's the question. If we go to town meeting in in spring, we can then wait another whole year for the May election, or we can do the special legislation and ask for the vote for the board to be taken by the public in November during the state election.
Right, but I think we're going to need that time to
Well, let
make
me just
sure
say
that
this,
we
if
do
town
this
meeting
right.
votes, town meeting is going to be the decision maker.
They voted once, they have to do
Okay?
it
So-
twice.
Right, so if they
They've
vote
only
for this,
there's only 50% done.
okay, but if they vote for this at the upcoming spring town
Right,
meeting.
and then the following May, we have elections for the board and everything's fine.
Well, I just want to be clear. I understand your difference in opinion of the timing, but I want to be clear that nothing that's being suggested eliminates a town meeting vote. What we're
Well, I
saying is
understand
if
that.
town
I
meeting
totally
votes for it,
understand that.
then we're asking that the will of town meeting be done. That's what
Yeah,
we're
but
discussing.
I don't think we need to rush anything in Falmouth ever again. I think we've got ourselves in enough trouble already by going too fast They're for trendy things that just don't ever pan out. So I would like us to take our time, do it properly, and see if we can get any bugs out between now and then. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, to each his own. Okay, thank you. So now, I would make a motion that we affirm our previous comments at our meeting of the 15th, which was to put all three of those articles on the town meeting warrant. Do you need more clear?
Well, basically, would be to petition the state for to allow a special election to be held at the same time as the state general election in November of 2022 for the purpose of determining this municipal light plant board. That's what
I think that
basically
6
voted.
months is important, so I'm willing to continue that.
If you vote that, then you would want to include that in the next item on your business.
And then we'd
which
look
is
at the article.
27.
Right.
Article 27.
Right.
And I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to say, I can't vote for that, given what it's going to do to the town clerk, and that our town clerk is not in favor of it. So I
I think
can't.
he's just raising the issue that it's not as simple as
Right,
just waving your hand and snapping
exactly.
your fingers.
And I'm just not sure that it's a good use of.
Are you waiting to comment?
Yeah, I'm a little confused here.
And I was playing with my phone, I wasn't completely paying attention. But they brought up your election was not your election in the primary, which is in September?
No,
As-
this was passed years ago.
It was, though. It was the same thing, though.
It was the
Same, but I mean, don't you all, and it makes no difference to me, but don't you also have an option of doing it during the primary?
No.
No?
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yep.
Town Council Duffy has a comment.
Certainly.
Just briefly, the selectmen are allowed to call a special election to fill a vacancy in the Board of Selectmen anytime they want. For every other special election, for any other purpose, you have to have legislative approval.
I see.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's why you need a special act.
Crystal clear.
But it's still an extra cost on the town.
No matter when you do it, yeah,
Correct.
So the question is,
if it's worth it.
do we want to invest that amount of money just to expedite the process?
And can we somehow help the clerk with additional staffing of some sort, temporary?
Well, Michael said staffing's not the problem, because they'll be staffing the election anyway.
Okay.
It's printing another set of ballots and all the preparations for that he's estimating primarily is what amounts to $10,000. He may need an additional part-time person or something, but he said that's not a significant expense, the staffing. It is the printing and preparation for a separate ballot and keeping the two separate.
So is the only real concern, and I don't mean to minimize, but the only real concern about not doing this in November and waiting until next April is potentially losing momentum and interest. Are there other factors to consider?
There's also, as Sam pointed out, the ARPA funding does have a sunset. And if we're just getting ourselves up and running and organized at the time when that sunset is coming, it's likely that we're not going to be able to take advantage of those funds.
Okay.
And also, there's a lot of communities that are taking the same initiative right now. So we might find ourselves at the back of the bus if we take too many side steps
Okay.
when we're trying to hire the contractors and buy the equipment to do this work, if it ever comes to be.
My other question is, he mentioned special legislation would need to be passed in time for nomination paper to be available this summer. How long does it take special legislation to pass? I have no concept.
I don't know that either,
Fair
really.
question.
Yeah, we'd be relying on our state representatives to
Push it.
carry that forward, Dylan and David.
No pressure on them.
And I think the answer to your question is there is no clear answer to your question. It's wildly variable.
Okay. What makes you feel better on why I didn't know?
You're right
So
on.
what would be the process then? We would ask the legislators to help us first before we go wasting money on printing stuff?
Well, we wouldn't have anything to
Well,
print yet until
Yeah,
it's
town meeting
allowed.
would act first, following
Right,
your lead
right.
if you pursue that. And then, we would reach out and see if we can secure that approval through the general court.
And there's a formal document the town council's office will submit to the general court, and then we communicate directly with our legislative delegation as well in terms of the timing and trying to move it along.
And we get a sense of whether or not it's worth pursuing and
Yeah,
printing.
then some decisions.
I don't want to start wheel-moving that.
No, your question is a really good one, and because it's a tight time frame for approval, we're going to have to look at that time frame very carefully because, there's a long lead time for the printing of the nomination, putting out the nomination papers, receiving the nomination papers back, printing the ballots, producing the ballots. So, we'll prepare, I think we'll need to prepare a detailed timeline to say, okay, if we get the special legislation approved by this date, then we can make everything happen. But after that date, we're gonna miss our timeline, and we're gonna need to move to the May election because we just won't have time.
Yes, Mr. Duffy?
One of the functions that my office will perform is if it's decided to go ahead and petition the general court for special legislation, we'll have to draft it and submit it to the court, to the general court. So I would actually probably start doing this in the next few weeks. And I was looking at special legislation from other towns, and what they do is they choose the timeline. And it's very, very short. For example, if you go to the town meeting in April, and the town meeting votes affirmatively to petition the court for special legislation, we have to file it like within a week or two, because the nomination papers are coming out in June, which means that we're going to require the legislation
To be done by then.
to be done almost immediately, and that's where our representatives come in. It gets stuck in a hopper someplace and forgotten until September. That's too late. So there's a lot of logistically, it's going to go very fast, and we have to be very prepared.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, yes.
Do we think that our decision on this will affect how town meeting votes on Articles 25 and 26? And if we vote to go ahead and basically publish Article 27 and say we want to petition for the special election, do you think that's going to make a difference to town meeting voters for 25 and 26? If town meeting voters disagree and don't think that we should rush it and perhaps have the same stance as Mr. Moriarty, do you think that it would be detrimental to Articles 25 and 26? Just an opinion question.
I don't personally think it would, because I think it shows our interest in it and sense of urgency that there is, if you're going to do a project like this.
Okay.
That's my personal feeling. It's hard to guess what town meeting's going to say or think, so you get to the precinct meetings and you start to get a drift.
Yeah. I guess my thought was I wouldn't want to vote in support of something that would then turn off everybody to the whole idea. If that makes sense.
It does make sense to consider that. I don't really think that would be the case, but that's just my personal opinion. Yes, Mr.
I think it's going to turn on people's sense of whether we need a better broadband network in town. And that's going to be the issue. Does this deserve the priority?
Is this worth the effort and the time that it's going to need to? Okay.
And town meeting will make that mind, and I think it's going to hinge on that. How important is broadband to this community, and how happy are you with the commercial networks that we have now?
Was that a trick question?
I didn't mean it.
I know.
That was hypothetical.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I see this as, I see this particular debate similar to when we look at some articles that maybe aren't fully fleshed out for town meeting, but my position has always been town meeting makes generally the right decisions because we hash it out. Town meeting, we don't have a town meeting where people are shy about sharing their opinions, and so if we're going to err somewhere, I like to err on the side of putting more rather than less before town meeting, because I think it gives options. And I fully understand the obstacles and some of the hurdles to getting this done. And I think it may be, as Frank has pointed out, we may go through all of these machinations, and there may be all these positive votes, and it gets stuck somewhere. However, I do think, special legislation is not that uncommon. It happens. It has to happen for a lot of, different reasons. And we can, hopefully our legislators who I think have been, I don't want to speak for all of them, but I know there has been strong support and at least robust discussion around this particular issue. So hopefully they would be keyed into, the fact that this is a potential and would, make those efforts to move that forward if that's how town meeting votes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just would like to chime in if I might. Relating to the question of, what this board does and how it may affect support at town meeting, I can't speak obviously or predict a town meeting with any accuracy, but I think it might be helpful, just forget about when the election happens, but the fact that you have made your position known, that you do not want the select board to serve as the board of the Broadband Municipal Light Plant, but to rather have a separate elected board. You've implicitly voted that by bringing forward this article. It seems like that if that's the direction that you go. But I guess I wanted to suggest you might even consider, and I'm sort of thinking ahead to writing out the explanation for the warrant article. And if we could say explicitly that this board has voted that if the municipal light is established through these town meeting votes, that you're on record as saying that you would be looking to have that municipal light plant.
Excuse me.
I guess, I'm sorry, there's already a separate petition article for it, right? So your recommendation on that article, you'll get to that later.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yep.
No,
But I think that'll be an important
I
point
think
for
that's
town meeting.
yes, and I think that actually helps. It does go to Angie's point, to the extent that we're really making it clear sort of how we see the policy component of this structure of this potential entity, right? That this board does not want to serve. We want to make sure it's understood it would be an elected position. I think all of that is very helpful, and we'll just flesh that out for town meeting.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not sure we need to rush it to have that stance either.
Okay, so we only have one item here, discuss and vote preference for potential municipal light plant. And now we've discussed it. Are we voting all three?
Are we voting Article 27?
No, that comes,
Well,
that's
the
number
vote
two.
is just the special legislation.
We're just on number
Okay.
one.
Okay.
The
Making
vote
the
is whether-
decision about your board is making a decision.
I got you.
All we're voting now, and then we go and we vote the articles.
Okay, then. Did you have another comment?
Yeah. Is it possible just to table the issue and have our representative come in here and tell us exactly what the time frame will be and what the process is?
I don't think they don't know what the time frame is. They don't control it.
Well,
I think we just got the best outline.
Well,
from
doesn't that answer the
Frank.
question itself right there? I mean, shouldn't we just let it play out so we don't make these big mistakes like we always
What do you
do?
mean let it play out?
I mean,
Just ignore everything and don't vote anything?
no, these people wanted it. That's why they put it, Petition 22, that's why they did it on the last town meeting, because that was the time for them to do it. And the next meeting is the next vote is at the next town meeting. They're on schedule. Everything's on schedule. The only people who aren't on schedule is the board and the town meeting.
Thanks.
The election of the MLP board.
That's right. Yeah, you're going too quick here.
But, well, the thing is that a municipal light plant for Falmouth can't do a thing until it actually has a board in place.
Well, then that's what we need to do.
Exactly.
That's
And
what we're
what
trying
they're.
to-
Well, then we should have an article at the town meeting to do that,
That's
to
what
elect
this
the
is,
board.
Mr. Moriarty.
That's what this is.
That's what this is.
But not to form a public utility or an energy company.
Okay, well,
I think maybe, I say this very respectfully, I think maybe if you go back to read the articles, because.
I
that's
read the
only
article.
way-
I read the article and it said nothing about you having anything to do. It said town meeting did not ask the select board as the Massachusetts State Legislator to ask for special legislation. They didn't ask you to do that. Okay, they did not ask you to do that.
they don't have to.
Well, it's too bad. They should. This is getting frustrating.
a little frustrating for me, you know? Because, we have the procedure, we have it all laid out, so we don't make any mistakes, and here you want to do is rush it through again. Let's just make it play out the way it's supposed to.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
That's it.
Here you go.
Well, I just think it's ridiculous to ask for a special
Well, you're entitled to
legislation.
your opinion, Mr. Moriarty, but we're gonna have to carry on with the meeting now.
Well, I'll just have to file another grievance if I have to.
Okay, then. All right. So where were we now?
So we need to vote, we need a motion to petition for a special election for a board for the municipal light plant board, if it should be voted by town meeting.
In November?
Yes,
I'll second that.
2022.
Is that a motion? or-
Yes, yes, I'm just going to articulate it so we can move forward.
Thank
It's
you.
a motion.
I seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Okay, 3-2. All right. Now the warrant.
Mr. Chairman, the next item are the articles on the warrant, but I'll just point out, just as a reminder, your schedule is on the adjacent page to the warrant, which indicates that, as you know, tonight is when you vote to execute the warrant,
Right.
approve the articles, and then they're published on February 4th. The presentation on the petition articles, there are 6 of them, as I recall, would be at your next regular meeting on the 14th of February, and then you would vote your recommendations on the 28th. And April town meeting's not far behind.
Right.
Thank you.
And how would you like to do this, Mr. Chair? Do you want me to, should we
I think we should just
go through
it,
each
just-
page, or?
We'll go through them just like we do at town meeting and see if anybody has questions or wants to hold them. Article 1, choose any necessary town officers.
Well, why don't we just simply go through and say, are there articles that somebody wants to hold? And then we could kind of go through in blanket. Sure, I think all of us have read these.
Okay.
So if there's one that there's a question about, we could have them hold that one, but the others could kind of be approved on a blanket basis. That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, so wouldn't we go through each page, Sam, and say Article 1?
Yep.
And then someone, and I'm happy to read
Or I
one.
just think,
That's what we just started.
yeah, or
doing.
maybe if
Yeah.
you just say Articles 1 through 5, because that's what's on a page. Is there any holds on those?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
recommending.
Okay, any holds on Articles 1 through 5?
I don't
No.
see any
Okay.
reason.
Any holds on Articles 6 through 12?
I can't read that fast.
Well,
Are we gonna just blanket the whole thing?
Well, the only question I had, let me hold number 11 just for an explanation, further explanation on what that's all about. So we'll,
I don't really want to blast through this so fast. See- Let's just at least mention what they are. Article
go ahead.
3 is fixed salaries for elected officials. Article 4, see if the town will vote to amend the position classification for ASME Unit B, zoning administrator. Article 5 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate such sums of money be deemed necessary for a town's expenses. That's the budget. Article 6, see if the town will vote a sum of money to be distributed by the town accountant. Article 7 is see if the town will vote appropriate a sum of money for purpose of wage settlements. Article 8 is see if the town will vote appropriate money for the capital improvement stabilization fund. Article 9, see if the town will vote a sum of money to other post-employment benefits. Article 10 is see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money within FY22 budget. Article 11, vote to appropriate a sum of money to supplement the FY22 budget.
can we stop at
That's a
this
whole-
point?
Okay.
And just
Yes.
simply, I don't understand the purpose of 11. Why do we feel at this point that, is this just a placeholder? in
It's a
case we-
placeholder for the finance committee,
In
should
case
they
we-
find the need to supplement the budget for the
Then
current
I-
fiscal year.
That's all I needed.
Yep.
I would withdraw my hold.
Okay, and then we're gonna, Article 12 is continue the revolving funds. The only one that's changed is the senior services for 400,000. We already approved that. Article 13, vote to appropriate a sum of money for the purpose of funding, design, and construction of a new fire
I
station.
had a comment on this one.
Okay,
In the first line, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the purposes of funding, should it be the design and construction? And then design and construction are both capitalized, and I don't know why.
Okay. Couple grammatical errors there.
Grammatical things,
We
yeah.
can adjust that, certainly.
All right. But the substance of it, no questions on that? See, Article 14, see if the town will vote to appropriate some money for fund the engineering, design, and construction improvements of wastewater treatment facility. 15, a sum of money for funding evaluation of options to discharge treated wastewater.
Can I ask a question on 14? Did we have a number for that? Did we vote a number for that?
So there has been an estimate that's been, that has been identified. I mean, there was an estimate a year ago, and I think,
But more recently, didn't we have that in a presentation?
yes.
And did we vote it at that time?
No, I don't believe
Okay,
so.
thank you.
And we generally, you know, we're just about to execute a contract with the engineering firm for the design. So we want to take some more time to refine the number before we print it in the warrant. So it'll be in the motion rather than in the article itself.
Thank you.
And so 15 is the question of the ocean outfall or other methods. 16 is some money for funding improvements at the Edward Mark Building, and I had a question about that one. Is there a dollar figure for that?
That'll be in the motion as well.
Yeah.
The estimate's coming forward, and it'll be presented to the Finance Committee later in the month of February.
Okay.
I had a question also. It says including upgrades to heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. And I know when we look back on spending money, we look at the intent of town meeting and perhaps what's an explanation. Would this be a problem if they find that there needs to be new roofing or new flooring or something that seems to go beyond the extent of heating, ventilation, air conditioning? I guess my question, if they find that they need to do more improvements than we have the money for it, will this stifle us, this particular wording?
If I could just comment, our view is we're creating offices for human services, and it may include those, but it's not so specifically limited. So that the offices are going to have carpet, for instance, but we don't mention every component.
Okay.
So it's a great question, but we just recently put a new roof on that building, so that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
They're mentioning the big ticket items, so people, because that
Okay.
turned out to be a lot more expensive than it was expected.
Right, I think that was kind of my,
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Good
make sure
question.
that that wasn't going to pigeonhole us.
Right.
Okay.
And then 17 is amend the Article 3 on Board of Health, the Code of Falmouth,
I have a question.
recycling waste materials.
Question about that one on section B.
Okay.
Second to last sentence is the Board of Health may be amended from time to time. Is there something more specific we can put there and just say may be amended regularly or on occasion?
The Board of Health may be amended, that doesn't make sense.
The rules and regs
regulations
adopted by the
Excuse
Board of
me.
Health may be
Okay.
amended. Yep.
This
I-
was crafted by
I
town
think time
council.
to
so
time is
Frank-
just kind of
Frank
standard
might have a
language.
comment on that.
Standard?
I think it's common language, but maybe Frank can.
Don't want to lock yourself in.
Yeah, this is common language that you put when you authorize a board to draft rules and regulations. You make sure that they have the authority to make amendments from time to time as they come up, because it's probably gonna be a trial and error.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on 17?
No, I just want to say thank you for everyone who, Frank, and for the folks on solid waste for continuing to push on this. This has been like many, many years, and
Right.
I just had a quick question on D, when, on the composting piece. We had a lot of conversations about composting. I know about collected for recycling and, but the composting piece kind of,
we've been
I
trying.
put composting in there
Yeah.
just so it's there.
okay, perfect.
And they have that
I love the idea of
composting.
composting, but I don't think we've spent a lot of time talking about composting.
No, they have it, but it's really just been
Thank you.
trial.
Going to regulate it more.
Yeah.
Food waste especially. If I may, I was just going to say, so the adoption of this regulation doesn't create a program, right? It gives the Board of Health the authority to craft a regulation, and there will be a lot of dialogue with staff and with this board before a program is put into place.
Thanks.
But I think as Mark
That
is saying,
clarifies, though.
we know it's coming, so
Down
why
the
not
line.
include it? So,
Okay, so 18 through 21 all involve acquiring property to supplement our sewering plans. Are these all, my one question is, are these all like friendly negotiated takings?
That's what they have been, yes. There's not going to be There's no intent to exercise eminent domain.
Okay, that was my question.
awesome.
That has to be in the language, however, that's why.
Any
it's
other
in there.
questions on those?
No.
And then 22 is the discussion of the Eversource line to the vineyard, going through the bike path and so forth. So we still have some more work to negotiate with Eversource before we're ready to really seal the deal on this, but we're gonna put it on the warrant anyway.
Right, yeah.
This is Eversource versus Vineyard Wind.
Mayflower.
Or Mayflower Winds.
Yeah,
Right.
Mayflower's not in this warrant.
Right.
Article 23 is to appropriate sum of money for the purchase of remediating erosion and safe access to deep pond.
Huge.
That's a petition, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we
Right.
can't.
So we put
talk
those
So
about
all
these
on.
are all petitions, right? Next,
Yeah.
All as is.
Yep,
27's the first one that you're in
Comes
control
back
is
of
ours.
again.
Yep.
okay,
The one we just talked about.
yep, okay. 28, Sustainability Director, another petition. 29, see if the town vote unappropriate 25%, that's another petition. The meals tax to use for affordable housing.
Yep.
CPC article.
And the CPC articles.
Yeah, and the CPC,
All the way
any
to the end.
questions on that?
I had a question on Article 33.
Okay,
Had to do with the old burying grounds, and I know DPW was working on that. So I assume that there'd be some collaboration between DPW and Community Preservation Committee on this conditions assessment?
they will.
I can clarify, yeah, we're working in collaboration with the Historical Commission and Ed Haddad that brought this before you initially. All Public Works has been doing is working with Frank Duffy, myself, and others in assembling existing information that's already been in place. This next step, if it's funded by CPC, will be in collaboration with an outside consultant, working with the Historical Commission and others, and we'd be bringing that forward to the board ultimately.
Thank you.
It's a little confusing in that we have Public Works, we have Community Preservation, then we have this Historical. Are they all collaborating and communicating with each other?
We are currently, yes.
Okay, because it doesn't feel that way.
Well, I know Mr. Haddad had indicated that he felt he was being left out, but the work that we had done was not advancing anything, it was only confirming the records that were already in place. And it also resulted in the November town meeting article that Frank brought forward that was necessary to allow us to even touch the gravestones at the old burying ground. Prior to that, we didn't even have the authority to do what we learned the town had been doing for some time. So we were taking some actions that were inappropriate. So we had to clean all that up in advance, and the planning department had worked with the Historical Commission in advancing this to the CPC with the town's concurrence, and certainly my concurrence also as town manager, recognizing that ultimately this is a collaborative effort, without a doubt, and that's going to continue to be that way.
And so the role, I guess I'm still not clear about the role of the DPW in this. If we have an application for the community preservation, does that mean that we bring someone in to do it and
It's just for an
DPW backs
assessment.
out?
No,
Okay.
it's strictly, so DPW, in the end, would probably do some work, maybe, or
So
arrange that. So
minimal,
this is
though.
actually an assessment. My understanding from Ed Haddad is that this is really, it's not it's an assessment of what's there, what needs to be done, what's the level of, what do we have there? Some of that work has already been gathered by DPW, but this would be a real full assessment
But
where
so,
someone come in.
I guess my concern is, does the DPW know that this
Yes.
is, and when did they know? How long have they known?
This
Is
discussion
Peter McConerty just walked through the cemetery with the guy.
Right,
last
but
week.
do they know that there's an application into the CPC? Because there was confusion around that.
Yes.
Okay, and that's the piece I want to make sure is cleared up.
And that's the reason that they're involved, is because CPC can't just give out money to a committee. They have
Right.
to have a department to work with.
Right, but I'm not, I think there was confusion around whether that DPW knew about the application. There was confusion around that.
Good.
But any work that's done is going to have to be a town procurement, because this is a town parcel.
Correct.
So it's going to have to be coordinated through the appropriate staff, whether it be DPW or planning or historical.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think where my understanding is the choppiness was, and Julian has alluded to it, I think Ed Haddad, who's he's just one, there's been several, but he was really the person who came before the board, who's really been pushing this topic up to sort of our review, felt that he hadn't been part of that process, the early process by the DPW, and he was thinking he was going to be brought in sooner. That I think has been remedied at this point.
Right, I wasn't.
Thank you.
I guess I wasn't as concerned about Mr. Haddad as just making sure that everybody knows what everybody else is doing.
I think they do now. Okay, and then now we're on to
What to vote them?
Petition of County ARPA Fund.
We have to vote them.
We need to vote these.
Oh, excuse me, right, we're not done.
I move we include articles, draft articles 1 through 38 on the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, we'll make those adjustments that Select Board member Anjali Scott Price had requested on that one article, number 13.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you want to have your county ARPA fund discussion next?
Yes.
I'm going to go sit in the hall.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
So is the extent of our conversation really about whether or not we are asking you to transmit another letter?
Correct.
Right, and it's about the particular issue that came up in our meeting with the county representatives is to allocate the funds based on population.
And that's how many other communities.
That's how the funds were allocated to the county in the first place, and from what I'm understanding from Eric Turkington, that is the basis that all of the other counties have allocated the funds to their municipalities, with the exception of Barnstable and
the Vineyard.
The Vineyard.
Yes,
right.
and I will say that we did receive correspondence from Eric Turkington that was very helpful. It really consolidated a lot of information about this issue, which I think it just kind of put an exclamation point at the end of what we've been asking and clarified a little bit more about what we should be refining in terms of our ask.
So I know I had in my my preliminary comments, suggesting that the board, if you're so desiring, that we transmit a follow-up letter to the county, asking that their $41+ million in ARPA funding be redistributed to Cape Cod municipalities based upon population as originally allocated by the federal government.
I'll second that. Except that.
You make the motion and
I'll make that motion, and
It just says discussion on distribution of county ARPA funds. It doesn't say vote.
Frank Duffy has ruled, we have this little note we've now put on the top of the agenda. Any discussion may also imply a vote because, because legally that's all that we're required to do.
Okay, thank you.
No, great question. I'm glad you
brand new.
gave us an opportunity.
Italicized.
I missed that.
An opportunity to clarify it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, then second?
I seconded it already, but that's it.
No, you made the motion.
You had to
because Julian
make the
can't make the
motion.
motion. So you made the motion and
Out of
Anji
order on that one.
seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you. We will
Thank you. That's,
transmit that letter.
those are much needed funds for a lot of projects that we've been discussing, so,
Yes.
Shall I go get Doug?
I should not be holding it.
the longer they keep it, the less it's worth. I mean, that's the reality with the way that prices are rising.
Maybe we should just note, I think it has been earlier, but the Massachusetts, or the Cape Cod Managers Association recommended exactly what you just voted, and the lion's share of municipalities on the Cape have also recommended this. A few with smaller population think that they should have a larger share, and communities like Falmouth should have a smaller share. But I guess it's sort of obvious what's going on there.
Yes, exactly what I was thinking.
And the needs
That's
are-
why the commissioners were
different.
holding out when I
Right.
think about where they live.
They're thinking their needs are superior to the town of Falmouth, perhaps.
Can I ask a question about that?
I didn't see Doug, so.
Doug just left.
He's hiding.
All right,
He's left the
Nancy.
building. I'll take it.
Run with it.
Well, I wasn't gonna go outside and look for it, I'll tell you that.
I mean, if all the other counties in the state are distributing as it was distributed by the federal government, and they should decide, and sounds like a power play to me, would we not threaten to sue them now? Honestly, I mean, would we not have grounds to sue them if they did go in their own? How could we not? If the states, I mean, it sounds like a precedent to me if everybody else is distributing as it was distributed by the federal government.
We have no indication from any attorney that says that the county must allocate the funds to the towns, let alone by population.
But doesn't precedent indicate that that's the way it should be done?
That's a political precedent, it's not a legal precedent.
But I would say that I think the Assembly is pushing pretty hard on this issue, and we need to continue
Pushing
as towns
back.
to push. Well, no, I think the Assembly's pushing in the right direction for us. It's
It's
the
the
commissioners
well,
right
yeah,
now.
against the commissioners, I mean.
So I think, I'm hoping it's going to resolve soon, because the political pressure, which is obviously what motivates the commissioners and anybody else who's elected to some extent, is getting pretty heavy, because this has been going on for a really long time.
We've already voted.
Yep.
Good.
You'll be among the first to know.
Yeah.
And now we're up to the consent agenda, which is a great idea. Does anybody have anything within the consent agenda, it includes, for the public, this includes licenses. One is a proven application for a change of manager of an all-alcoholic common victualler license,
Yeah.
Cape
Is
Cod
there-
Country Club, at 48 Theater Drive.
We don't have any information as to whether they have a tip certified.
I think that they may be here.
Oh,
Come on
okay.
up.
That's the only question I had.
Okay.
Yeah, so Dan Lovell, I'm the new general manager at Cape Cod Country Club. Tip certification, ServSafe manager certified, allergen ServSafe certified with the state of Massachusetts, all within the past 60 days.
Great.
So I'm up to date, good with that, so.
Thank you.
Glad to see we'll get at least one more year, maybe two.
The way things are looking, yeah, looks like it. Talk with the owners often, so at least through 2023, that's what my contract guarantees me through, so.
Okay, good. Have to get out there and enjoy it. You probably have a busy year now that people know it's going to be going away.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm fighting against, yeah.
Everyone was there today sledding, so.
Yep. So.
Great, thank you.
So do we vote these as we go along? Or
Oh,
what's-
we can vote
Well,
the whole thing. I
This
think,
is a
right?
new thing we're
Yeah.
considering.
Explain it.
And if we want to go through this and discuss them all, we can, or we can consider what Nancy had brought up last week, with some other towns use this, and we talked about it Saturday at our planning meeting, that these things that seem pretty obviously okay, that we can just let people go ahead and.
Yeah, we hold it if we
And
want
if
to.
there's a question, you hold.
Right.
Just like before, yep.
All right, good.
So, I can read them in the administrative orders, if you want?
Yeah,
Or
we
you
should
just
at least
wanna-
read them, right?
I think so.
I think so.
So to approve 2020 seasonal population increase estimation form for submittal to the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. B, approve grant of license to the Shakeland Family Real Estate Trust to manage a stockade fence, gate, and hedges encroaching onto the street layout of Central Ave at 490 Central Ave. Vote to approve request to extend the term of the Edward Marks Building Committee until 12/31/24. D, approve request for a waiver for the sign permit fee, Chapter 184, Section 12, from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Falmouth, 840 Sandwich Road. E, authorize the town manager and town council to respond to the open meeting law complaint filed by David Moriarty, RE the Select Board meeting of January 15th, 2022. And F, authorize the town manager to transmit a letter of support to the Marine Biological Laboratory, MBL, grant application for funds to repair the seawall in Waterfront Park in Woods Hole.
And there was one other one that I didn't mention earlier, which was
Oh, yes, the-
approve application of change of address of a wine and malt beverage license for New Golden Dynasty Restaurant Incorporated, located at 13 Davis Straits, Unit 7, Falmouth.
Yes.
I need a hold.
Nope.
Okay,
So I would
then,
second. those, if you read those as a motion?
Yes, I'll motion to approve.
Okay, I would second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Interesting. Thank you, Ken. Welcome, Mr. Suso, with supplemental report, if you'd like to.
We have minutes?
Some minutes?
We got, oh, minutes, right, excuse me, snuck that in there.
Dealing with the December 20th first?
Yep.
I'll have just a couple of edits or suggestions. On the very first page, under number 2, there's the comments where it says, Chair Brown reported that the select board found out the preferred site, and I think we should at least say what site we're talking about, and that's for the Mayflower wind power cable
Right.
at Surf Drive. Otherwise,
We have no idea.
we have no idea what that refers to.
Good point. Thank
And
you.
I would just put a period at the end of option and start off with a capital T for there are now 2 site proposals, just to split that up. There are a number of places where there's a lot of run-on sentences that I think we could splice up,
Okay.
make it more readable. Let's see, then on page 3, at the bottom of the page, just above where it says 2, you've got Scott Price motion approval, second Patterson twice. And so I would suggest that since we have a comment from Megan, that we strike the first one, and then the second use of that statement, of the voting
Right.
applies to the motion.
Okay.
Good catch.
Page 4.
And
the
then
first one, I'm not sure where it
last
is now.
one, I think.
Pardon me, Sam, what
Page three.
what page is
Page
that?
Page 3.
It was page 3,
I think it's the bottom.
at the bottom.
At the bottom, yep.
It just shows that we voted twice, so we just need to strike probably right after I closed the hearing,
Okay.
you can strike that one
Yeah,
and leave the second one.
right. And then, on page 5, I don't know whether this is important, but if you, about a third of the way down, in that large paragraph there, it says the Conservation Commission already grants permission for the 2 locations to be used. The town council approved property access, and the test, I assume that's boring? It says pouring, which is,
So it's on the paragraph that starts with Dave.
yeah, okay. And then one more on page 9, and, oh yes, on the very last page, in the top line there, reading through, well, it says, he suggested Kathy call Suso about the select board approving the lease, but it could not get to the agenda tonight. Well, I think we should just simply say it's on the agenda and scratch tonight. And then the next sentence is the more critical thing. Could this be addressed at the first meeting in 2022? Not in 2021, because this is taking place on December the 20th. So change 2021 to 2022. And that's it. Those are the edits I would recommend. I'm happy to move approval of the minutes of Monday,
Those
December 20th, 2021, unless somebody else has something to add.
Okay,
I
we
second.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the January 3rd minutes. I had an edit on page 2. It's really, I guess it's really a question. In the very first, well, I guess it's the second paragraph, it's the one that says estimated local receipts. If you go down, community impact fee of 3% from short-term rentals became effective 7/1/2022. Well, it doesn't make sense. Should it be 21/21?
No, no, that's a community impact fee. That's going to will become effective.
Oh.
Yeah, or becomes effective.
Yep.
You're right,
Right.
Sam, it's the wrong conjugation of the verb. Yep.
Right, wrong tense. Okay,
Yep.
so that's, just to clarify that. And then I think I had a question on page 4, the very top sentence that says, Scott Price asks about the differential line in the salaries and wages. Mullins said that,
Evening differential.
Page is this,
is what? I don't know how to interpret that sentence.
So, is this the evening differential?
evening, like work, when you work an evening shift.
Oh, so we should say evening shift differential.
Okay.
So where are you, Sam?
Top, very top on page 4.
Okay, thank you.
You just need the word shift after evening.
Yep, shift. That'll work.
Now it makes sense to me. Those are the only 2 edits I would recommend.
I'd move approval with those edits.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, Mr. Suso, you want to polish it off?
Oh, yes, as the Select Board had requested, I attach to my report a summary recruitment update for selected town positions. And of course, as the board has seen, you've affirmed the town council appointment this evening. Thank you. And I'll be happy to walk through building commissioner, IT director, town planner, housing coordinator, beach superintendent. They're all summarized there in writing to the board with the status report. They're all either well underway or in early stages of the search process. Some multiple times, as you've seen.
Good to hear.
Continuing to join the Finance Committee for their weekly meeting on Wednesday evening of the past week, as well as EDIC for their presentation on alternatives for potential development of the Falmouth Depot property. And as noted earlier, but I think it bears repeating, the Sandwich Road Fire Station Building Committee's holding their public meeting to review design progress and accept public comments at 7 p.m. this Thursday, February 3rd, in the Lawrence School Auditorium. We look forward to having the public join us for those comments. And the Select Board's next regular business meeting is Monday, February 14th. Thank you.
Okay, Select Board members' reports, anybody?
May I just briefly?
Yes.
It's not a report, I just want to put it on the radar. I received some feedback, I think maybe you did too, Doug, some concerns about what Julian was just noting about the EDIC project on Depot, that some members of sort of that neighborhood didn't feel that they had been really reached out to, or had been able to share comments substantively, and had some critique about the most recent meeting on the 26th, which had been billed as sort of a stakeholders meeting, but was more of a webinar format. And so, at any rate, I just know eventually that issue will come back before this board. This is this will be a community project, whatever happens. And I just wanted to sort of note that I've heard from a few people with that same concern, that this was not something that they had, and some are entities and some are individuals, that they hadn't been really aware that this was progressing in the way that it was.
Yeah, I've been attending the meetings. I went to the one at the library, and I did 2 Zoom meetings, and I have been advocating on behalf of the Elks to try to get them to keep that shared parking in the back, and to date, I've been unsuccessful at convincing them, but I'm still continuing to put in comments, so I probably won't participate in any voting that comes before this board at the time, but
I won't probably
hopefully
either, but
I'm just trying to get them to keep an open mind about it. The clubs have been using that parking for 20-something years, and they spend quite a bit of money to clear it, and they got permission from Mass DOT, and at significant expense to clear the land and put down the gravel and and maintaining it. So I'm hoping that they'll still come up with a plan that perhaps shares that or preserves it.
Well, since I'm on the EDIC board and I am privy to all the conversation, I can tell you that everything up to this point has been taking information, taking deliberation. No decisions have been made. So basically, they're taking input from everybody, and they have duly noticed these meetings. And we've had representation from any number of the, abutting properties and organizations. So, but no decisions have been made as to what proposal will eventually be put out.
But the concern, I voiced a concern after that last meeting. I sent a letter to Wayne and Michael, just saying that I felt it was concerning to me that that last meeting was a summary of comments received, as if, they've finished their work, they've got all the comments, but they didn't even include any comment about the Elks Club, and I've commented on it each time. So I was a little unhappy about that, and I let them know that in an email subsequent. And the fact that some of the neighbors in those condos across the street didn't even know about it, and a lot of them are probably away at this
Yes,
time of
I
year.
understand.
So
Yeah,
if they're summarizing comments received now, that is a little bit of a concern, even though it's early, because they're not really reaching out and getting the comments, and now they're done with comments.
Yeah, I raise it only because I'm hearing it from folks, so I'm passing it on mostly through you to pass on to EDIC.
And I'm happy to do that.
That, I think that there's just been some concern about that, and we know how that goes. People don't see things until it's, raises to a certain level.
And how many times have we experienced that? We think we're doing a good outreach, and people go, what the heck,
Yes.
What about the Little Pond Sewer Service area?
Yeah.
Moving up to that project. I mean, how many
Senior
times
center.
have we have people say, wait a minute, I've never heard about this?
Yeah.
And even though my email I sent was a little bit critical, I did also say I certainly understand how this happens.
Yes.
And I
So
wasn't-
just,
I
if we
was
pass
not
that
trying-
along to them.
Pass those
Not trying to be
concerns along.
disrespectful, I
Thank
just
you.
wanted them to get that feedback, and they were very nice about their reply.
Thank you. That's it for me.
And I just wanted to announce that the Transportation and the Bikeways Committee are gonna have a joint meeting on Wednesday, so in case you guys are interested, Peter McConaty's gonna be nice enough to go and join them and explain to how the Complete Streets prioritization plan is gonna play out and how he sees it, so they can understand better the process. So it's nice, he's been really good at engaging them lately, so.
Is this a Zoom webinar that other people can tune in?
It is, yes.
Okay, good.
It's the regular,
Whose are they using? Are they using
I think-
Bikeways?
I think Transportation is going to attend Bikeways.
Okay.
But they're posted, so, yes, sir.
Mike mentioned that I have certainly been part of these EDIC meetings, including the bus station public meeting, public forum that was held. I did try to attend the MMA annual meeting. I found it was not very useful.
I felt
Not
like
much
it was a
good
waste of
information
time.
shared. It just seemed to be mostly self-congratulatory kinds of comments or posturing. It was a waste of time. I don't know how else to say it. And then the last thing, I did watch the Mayflower Wind webinar where they explained that huge project that they're doing south of Vineyard Haven, and how they're going to be routing half of their power, that's their proposal, through Brighton Point near Fall River, and the other half they're trying to route up through Falmouth to connect into the grid. And that I did listen to it. I thought it was pretty well explained, but, the rationale as to why they want to go one way and other and split the thing up, that's probably has to do with ISO New England's trying to handle that power and distribute it with the, existing infrastructure that they have.
I read a report recently that explains the benefits and the better planning that could be achieved by combining all those lines together and not willy-nilly coming on landfall in many places. And I sent that comment into them, but I didn't get any address. They were more interested in talking about jobs and, things that could, all the benefits that are going to come from it, instead of talking about the actual infrastructure.
Right. And of course, anytime you're in a Zoom webinar like that, you really don't feel like
Powerless.
you have much influence.
Yeah.
That's certainly true. It was more like, it seemed like more of a commercial, an advertisement.
Indeed.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
You want a report from Chicago?
On the airlines? No, thank you. Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir. Citizens report?
Hi, everyone. Dave Moriarty. One quick question. Would it be possible for the Board of Selectmen to ask Mayflower Wind to please come to Falmouth and put on a presentation for the citizens of Falmouth, please?
We're certainly expecting that soon, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. We
ASAP, because everybody's up in arms. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody even knows where the cable's going. You got a project that's supposed to be engineered, and it's not even finished yet. The engineering isn't even done yet. I mean, it's silly. It's just not making any sense to a lot of us. So we would like somebody of a Mayflower Wind Authority to come to town and explain to us exactly where the road is, where it's going, how it's going to be applied. Is it going to be in stainless steel conduits? Is it going to be gas infused? Are you going to keep it safe from the public? We would like all these answers, these questions answered, please. Thank you.
I certainly agree.
Appreciate it.
I think we all like that, would like to see that.
I'd move that we adjourn unless somebody has another comment.
Second.
I would say, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.